So you got Dak Prescott playing for a lot, Deshaun playing for a lot, not necessarily all playing for money. Some are playing for reputation. Shady, as you look up.
I believe as a franchise, they have a high floor because of the defense and a low ceiling because of the quarterback.
So now that the NFL schedule is officially out, the draft is over, and camps are well underway, I wanted to talk all about the Cleveland Browns, review who they drafted, talk about recent news, including the status on Nick Chubb, talk about what the outlook of this season is for this team, and so much more. But before I begin, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe. It only takes 5 seconds, plus you can always change your mind. We are now officially on the road to 30k subscribers, and with your support, I believe we can get there super fast. Alright, so let's start off with the schedule. We already knew a few days ago that the Dallas Cowboys were the Week 1 matchup, and what a way to start out the season with Tom Brady announcing his first game on national TV. And even though Dallas is on the decline, they are always hyped up coming into every season, and this is going to be a huge game to set the tone for the season for both teams. The big and I guess surprising thing for me when I saw the schedule is that the Browns have 4 primetime games. Usually, Cleveland is a sports city not very respected by the media, but they're going to be shown to the national audience many times. And there is just so many big games on their plate that they are going to have to be ready for. They start the season with the Cowboys, Jags, Giants, Raiders, and then Commanders. The Browns have on paper the toughest schedule in the league according to PFF, but those first 5 games are all winnable. And the Browns need to win 4 out of those 5 to set the tone for the season. Because after that, it is just haymaker after haymaker. But we all know things change year after year, and teams that were good last season can rapidly decline. So even though they have the toughest schedule right now, that doesn't mean they wouldn't end up at the middle of the pack by the end of the season. Really, the Browns just need to handle business and not pay attention to the outside noise. Anyways, moving on, the thing that everyone has been keeping their eye on ever since he went down is the progress of Nick Chubb's rehab, and I have some good news and bad news. The good news is that he is on track to recover, and I think he's still going to be a top 10 running back in the league, if not top 5. But the bad news is that he more than likely won't be available until midway through the season. So the Browns' plan is to get as much out of Jerome Ford and newly signed Foreman as they can until he comes back. And it might actually be nice getting one of the top players in the league back midway through the year, even though it sounds like a sucky situation. But moving on, getting back to the schedule, beginning in week 12, Cleveland will host a division rival in the Steelers on Thursday Night Football on November 21st at 8:15 p.m. The game will air on Prime Video. The Browns have won their last 8 home games on Thursday night, including 2 wins against the Steelers during that span. The Browns are 9-2 all-time at home on Thursday night. The Browns have 2 total Thursday night games this season. The team won their last 6 games on Thursday night and own an 11-8 all-time record on that day. Their second Thursday night game will come in week 16 when the Browns travel to Cincinnati to face the Bengals on December 19th for another divisional matchup. Kickoff is scheduled for 8:15 again, also on Prime Video. Cleveland's final primetime game will come in week 17 when the Dolphins come to town. Kickoff is slated for 8:20 and the game will air on NBC. This truly feels like a weird year for the Browns because nobody knows what to expect. They could be a 14-3 team, or they could also be an 8-9 team. I know I have some bias, but I personally think talent-wise, this team matches up with anyone, and they are for the most part running it back with their historic defense under Jim Schwartz, and they will look to fix some of the issues they had on the road now that they have some experience. It was crazy to see the Texans pick them apart like they did in that wildcard game, but they were just on fire, and you gotta give some credit to CJ Stroud because he was phenomenal. But yeah, with how dominant this Browns defense was, they did have a few games where they looked lost, but that happens. It was just unfortunate when it did. I already made a video where I talked about who the Browns selected in the recent draft, but now real fast, I want to go over who they did pick because I think they got some big pieces that can help this team now and also in the future, even without having a first round pick due to the Watson trade they of course made years ago. With so many offensive players being taken off the board early, that left some great value on the defensive end. So by the time the Browns were on the clock at pick 54, they saw that Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State was still available. And he is a huge defensive tackle that with proper development, I think can become a very solid and reliable player in this league. And I mean, the Browns know they have Myles Garrett, so he's going to have a guy next to him to show him how to be successful in the NFL. Next in the 3rd round at pick 85, they picked Zach Zinter, a guard out of Michigan. He's coming off an injury, and I don't think he's going to see the field much in 2024, but he's more of a piece for the future. Alright, now I want to move on and talk about Kevin Stefanski. He's received a lot of criticism for certain play calls throughout the past few years from many fans, including myself. And honestly, I don't think fans are in the wrong for this because he does overthink himself sometimes and it ends up costing this team games. But overall, he is pretty much the best coach the Browns have had since they came back, and this team has seen more success the last 3 seasons than they have the last 2 decades. And now that he and a lot of players have been together for multiple years, I think a bond is starting to be created. At the end of the day, I think I say this in pretty much every video about this team, but the fate is all on Deshaun Watson's shoulders. He needs to stay healthy, he needs to put up numbers, and he needs to be a leader. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of calling him a bust yet like so many people have, but if he doesn't show up this year, it's over, and the Browns are back to square one. But it's just been so weird because he has shown promise at times, but he's just been so unlucky. It's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But one thing the Browns do have a natural ability to do that they have learned how to do over the past few seasons is win ugly. The weather is often pretty bad, the defense has to grind out games, and usually they will score in odd games. There were games this past season where the Browns scored more points on defense than they did on offense and won. So I can't help but think what this team would be like with a top 10 offense in the league like they have on paper. I know when you think of the Browns, you don't really think of the receivers, but in 2024, the Browns have a top 10 receiving corps in the league, led by Amari Cooper, who is the most consistent pass catcher I've ever seen in a Cleveland uniform since Josh Gordon. And Andrew Berry, of course, just brought in and extended Jerry Jeudy from the Broncos. And behind them is Elijah Moore and then Cedric Tillman, who I expect to start to show some flashes of his talent very soon. And then at tight end, you of course have David Njoku, who I expect to put together a Pro Bowl season. Let me know in the comments below what your expectations are for the Browns in 2024 and how many wins you think they will get now that the schedule has officially been released. I know it kinda seems far away, but football really is right around the corner. And in Cleveland, all the preseason hype is pretty much the best time of year because it's the only time us fans can't get let down. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. Thank you all so much if you made it to this point, and if you enjoyed and haven't yet, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe because your support truly does mean the world. And also, follow me on Instagram because I'm posting tons of cool sports content on there every single day. And until next time, I will see you all later.